Hello, and welcome to StoryFellas, a podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
And if you've not seen the show before, it's a show where we take about an hour and improv through a story outline for a movie idea. We roll dice and we have prompts and we use old ideas and then we make up a title and a line from the story at the end. Zach, how are you doing today?
I'm really good, man. I'm really good. I'm a little sad, actually.
Oh no. Oh no, he's sad. Why is the boy sad?
No, I was debating on how long to do the sad bit. I'm not really that sad, but I actually just finished playing through a Pokemon ROM hack called Pokemon Crystal Clear. And for those who don't know, I'm a big Pokemon head, but this is a remake of Pokemon Crystal, pretty early entry in the Pokemon games, and it has some certain rules baked in that make it a lot more extreme and interesting, as in like your Pokemon die after they battle, or if they die in battle, they're dead forever kind of thing. And I took it as far as I could go. If you lose all of your Pokemon, you lose the game. And I recently got all the way to the end of the game. You're fighting the final 4 bosses, and I beat the first guy in that sequence. And I had Pokemon that I loved. I named them. You're supposed to name them. It forces you to do it so that you love them more, so it hurts more when they're dead. This sounds very sadomasochistic now that I'm explaining it to people. But yeah, I just did that 2 nights ago, and I got creamed basically by the first boss guy. And so all my precious Pokemon, who aren't real in any way, shape, or form, are dead.
Yeah. But I feel like we me and Zach and some friends actually got together recently, and him and Colin were talking about this type of stuff all the time. Because I played the old Pokemon games, but I never played this serious games. And I can totally tell that could you just even if you're not attached to the Pokemon, the idea of you play through the game and you're like, all right, time to fight the boss. And the boss is just because it's also you have your 6 Pokemon. I have to imagine that you're seeing it slip through your hands. You're like, no.
Oh, yeah. I actually recorded the battle. I recorded the battle, so we can post it if you want, because it's good. It's good. You would not know the reason why I think it's really attractive to people who know the franchise, love it, but are older, is because the story is so good. You start developing your own lore about it and who you are, and you have your relationship with these Mon. They help you through certain battles. Every battle matters at that point, because originally in Pokemon, for those who don't know, you fight thousands of battles, and they faint. You can heal them, not a problem. But when you're trying to beat whoever it is, some lower level boss, and this one guy pulls through, and the rest of your team is dead, and now you got to rebuild your whole team from this one guy. That's so cool. And I have so many stories like that just through that playthrough. I think I was explaining when we were together last week that maybe I'm pretty sure it was with you guys that I was describing being at work in the bathroom, just playing in the bathroom on my my bathroom breaks, but keeping it really high level here. And one of my precious Pokemon, a Poliwhirl, was killed just out of nowhere, and I audibly said no. In the bathroom. So people at work passing by would have just heard
just a very desperate, sad no.
Yeah. And then you're just sitting there, you're like, okay, whatever. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And again, what it really juices up in terms of storytelling is the stakes. The stakes are so high. Every encounter matters. And so you're just trying to be super strategic about things, so you can reduce the damage that your precious Pokemon will take. And I had a Crobat. I had raised him all the way to level 100, which is as high as you can go. And my boy was just cooking through this guy. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. Like I said, we can post the battle just so you get an idea. I won't ruin how it goes south, but it goes south so quickly.
The only thing that would make it better, because it's just recording your internal sound, right, of the phone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, I could do commentary over it.
I was gonna say the only thing that would make it better is if there was a live commentary, like of the moment you're like, no, 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 it's just like screaming at your phone.
It is, yeah.
Oh man,
it was definitely happening. It was just, oh man,
cool.
Brutal.
Yeah,
brutal.
If you post it, let me know and we can link it somewhere.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But what about you, man?
Or
frittering away my life with video games. What about you?
No, the only thing that comes to mind for me is from your story is I don't play video games because I don't know. I don't have time. Like I like them. I almost like the story more than playing them. I feel like playing them like stresses me out. I don't have the patience, but I like watching people. Back in college, I used to watch a roommate play a game and just commentate, and it was so fun. We recently, me and my wife went to a friend's house, Amelia's, which I think she listens to this. So if you're catching up to this episode, hi, Amelia. And it's similar because it has to do with lore and something I realized because she invited us to do some painting, which I don't really paint at all. Like my painting looks like second grade painting. Like it's not very good. And I just leaned into painting monsters. Like that was what was interesting to me.
That's cool.
But so we did some painting and we did some sketching, and I'm better at sketching. I'm still not great at it. Zach is a very good artist. And my wife is a very good artist.
In there, man. Dude.
Yep. And well, he is like, I can do like the basic, like cartoony drawings. I can't make anything super realistic, but then I was doing this painting and stuff, and I'm not super competitive, so I didn't even care. I'm joking that my stuff looks like a kid did it. But where I feel like I shine is like coming up with the lore of the stuff that I'm drawing. I was like, oh, this guy is this. Like this might be an allusion to a future episode or something, but I drew this basically teacup. I started with a teacup, and then I just decided to make it this head, and then I made him this big beefy genie, and I was like, oh, he's a cup genie. Like he's a genie that only grants beverage-related wishes or liquid-related wishes, and I just thought that was really funny and kept like joking about what that would look like, what people are doing.
I think we have our prompt.
Oh, you want to do that? I know that you had a scrap at one point.
Bev genie.
Bev genie? All right, we can do Bev genie.
We'll save my scrap for another day. That sounds interesting.
All right. Well, we're going to go Bev genie. But before we do that, also, listener, if we've done our math correctly, it's the new year. And we just want to say Happy New Year. Thanks for sticking around. Hope it's been a great holiday season. Yes. Hope you've got some fun ambitions heading forward. Maybe you're writing some stuff. Maybe you're coming up with your own stories.
That would be amazing. Send it to the StoryFellas. We'd love to read it.
Yeah, send it to us. Send us a message. We've got emails and stuff in the show notes. You can comment in YouTube. We want to hear other people's stories as well. If you got ideas for the show, we welcome that, because apparently you can say something like cup genie, and then we'll roll with it.
Well, so, I don't know. You know, we're celebrating calendar year two for StoryFellas.
Year two.
And so I think going with one of our favorite things to talk about, which I don't know if we've done a story. We've done one story with a genie, wishes, wants, and desires.
Yes.
And so yes. I think we need to revisit the genie as a concept.
I like it. Well, we are going to just hop into this scrap then, and we're going to talk about cup genie. And so basically the scrap ideas, I kind of explained them already. He's kind of like we said at the hangout, he looks like the Kool-Aid man's like hip cousin or something. Like he's like very humanoid, very just like beefy thing. He just happens to have a cup for a head, like this giant cup that's filled with liquid. And like if he's bored, he'll like lean over and it'll pour out on the ground and stuff that is like always full.
What's that?
This definitely feels whatever you want. No, blood. It's just blood pouring out.
It's just blood in there, you know. That reminds me of Cuphead, the video game character. He's also got a TV show. I do think that there's a pretty easy tweak to this to get it out of Cuphead territory. Not that Cuphead is a genie. Mm-hmm. He's not. He's more like a Mickey Mouse type character. But is that is the lamp. Like whatever, like his lamp got put into like a pitcher of lemonade or something. And so that is just what his head is. Like he can't get out of the lamp entirely, I guess. So he just has his body.
That's kind of cool. Oh, like, so there's like not even a face on it. I do like the idea that it's like this cup, like a teacup, like this unbreakable teacup. And then when they rub that, it fills with water and it grows, and then like his body shoots out the bottom.
That's cool.
I do kind of like the idea that his head, like he can talk, maybe he's like but maybe doesn't have a face, or he has like the design of the cup has designs that like make the face, cool. Like, but it doesn't have like physical,
like whatever it is, but then it kind of changes into his face. That is cool. I like that a lot.
That's cool. This feels like in that kind of, it was the worm-esque thing. It feels a little absurdist that you find a genie with just the beverage wishes, but I really like that. I think that's funny. It feels like
we love our genies. We love our rules, and like trying to find ways around it. And the fact that it's beverage related, I think it puts us into amazing, like just hems us in so perfectly. Because creativity is about like pushing against the walls, right? Like trying to get over the wall or around the wall, or like what you do within the walls. That I think our main character is either a like down on his luck, like loser, or I guess he could probably start that way. But I want him to build a like soda empire. I think that is really cool.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm thinking.
Kind of crumble.
I feel like he could have an occupation in like being a bartender or a barista or like something drink related, maybe.
Yeah.
Where he's starting, but he doesn't like. It's like a toxic workplace. He doesn't really like it. And then he stumbles upon this cup or something. Do you have a preference? I feel like if it's a coffee cup, then maybe some sort of coffee shop would make sense.
Coffee shop makes sense. And that he would work, like the coffee shop, I feel like has to have a certain age to it. It can't just be like a Starbucks. It's got to be real, owner owned kind of thing. Because, or there's like an old lady, which I think would be really funny. There's like an old lady who brings in, like a tea set every day. And she asks like to have her cup filled up like by the barista, and it always annoys her. It's like, why did you bring your own cup? You bring your own cup to the coffee shop or whatever. But she sets it up and she's always like talking to herself in the corner. And then one day she just dies. She's just like, falls over dead. And he is like in the rush, the barista like grabs the cup basically. And when he grabs the cup,
and puts it in the bin or something.
Yeah. And like at the end of the day, he's washing or whatever. And he ends up, oh, she was actually talking.
I like it. Let's give the barista a name. Real quick.
Let's go with, let's see. I'm trying to think of something beverage related.
Zach with an H.
I mean, I'm okay with naming a character after myself.
Well, it doesn't have to be Zach. We can save that for your season 2.
My biopic episode.
Your biopic. What about Pete or something?
Pete is good. I want something more.
Paul.
Pete's pretty pathetic. Peter, Paul, and Mary. Naming is, for those just tuning in, is always a bugaboo for us. And sometimes we can just like get over the hurdle a little bit. Other times we have to kind of work our way up. It just helps.
I feel like I always just throw the first name, I think, because I'm thinking if I wrote this, I would take more time with the names, and Zach likes to find that name that fits.
Let's go with
Nigel.
No, Nigel feels like Thornberry. Names have a feel. So that's my big thing. It's like, there's people who see colors and they have like synesthesia or whatever. Names, I can see your entire life. I've never met. I'm trying to think of a name that I hate. No,
you can't do that. We have a listener that has a name.
That's fine with me.
We could do.
I think
just write a book,
something like that. Richie.
What was it?
Richie.
Yeah. What about just Rich? I don't know. That might be too on the nose.
That's why Richie has like the I'm immature kind of thing going for it. That he would eventually go by Richard.
All right.
The beverage king.
The beverage king. It's like, I have so much money. Okay, so yeah, let's say we establish our you and our story circle. If you don't know, guys, I use a story circle to just help us stay on track. The you, we established the protagonist. Richie is barista. He's at this shop. Here's a thought that I think this could just add flavor. This is before I like the idea of the lady had the cup and she brought it in. I was going to say maybe this was an old, like this coffee shop's like an old place that's been here forever. And there's like an old man or woman who's the technical owner. But then there's this like young, rude guy who's like the new general manager who's like making it more modern and like upping it. And he's like, we need screens in here. We need screens. People love screens. And then because I was thinking he would find the cup like locked away in the back where the owner keeps their stuff. But I do like that the lady just brings it and talks to herself. I think that's interesting. It adds a whole he just doesn't like it. I think he still has a rude general manager.
That's fine.
That is just like, you can tell that this place is not a great place to work, but he's doing his best to stay here. He's like, Richie, there's like, go clean up and go do the dishes or something. You're on dish duty tonight because there's like so many, the dishes backed up. I think that's the easy thing. The dishes backed up because someone literally died in the coffee shop and like no one was doing work properly. And he's like, you have to stay late and catch up on these dishes. And in the dish bin is going to be our magic cup. Yeah. So I think that's kind of establishing things. And he just needs,
it's a good setup.
It's a little bit of a remasculator's story. We do tell that story a lot, but I feel like that's kind of, it's a story that I feel like is going to go the route of like, he's going to pursue toxic masculinity a little bit because he's going to think money and power.
Totally. He's going to be rags to riches to rags, I think is really our story here, where he obviously is the lowest rung on the totem pole here. And maybe has aspirations to do other things. Hopefully. Otherwise, why are you're just not going to use your wishes? There's a little bit of a theme here emerging that I like, which is like, okay, you're getting opportunities and things you don't care about. He's like, hey, I will grant your wishes with beverages. He's like, I have no desire to do this at all. But it's like, it's such a big opportunity that he, or maybe he like sits around and tries to think of wishes that can relate. I mean, obviously he would, but we could try and give him a goal that's separate from the beverage thing. And then he has to kind of give that up. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think, I think the funny first reveal of the thing is like, so he needs something. He feels like he doesn't have any power or anything. And that's what he thinks he needs. And then the crossing the threshold is this genie, maybe I think also establishing this girl who comes to the coffee shop a lot, who's actually like relatively nice to him, that he kind of has a crush on. I think you could add a love interest in there.
Totally.
We're basically telling Aladdin just with a modern day and like beverage themes, which is fine by me.
I think we have some wild turns coming. I think that's like, it's this kind of same setup, but I think it's going to take some wild turns. I have many ideas in my head right now, and I'm trying not to tip the scales.
He's in the back. I don't know if you worked in coffee shops before, Zach, but there's usually those like 3 bin sinks. Like there's like giant. So you have like soap and water and sanitizer, and he's basically doing that. It's like late. It's like maybe like 10 or 11. Maybe this place stays open late, and he's cleaning and he's tired, and then he's like grabs that cup and he's like, oh. Like it realizes like this isn't supposed to be here, but like it's still dirty. It has coffee in it or whatever. Yeah. And so he washes it. Like he rubs the cup and he washes it, and then the cup like slowly like fills with like a liquid, and he like keeps pouring it out, but it keeps filling up and it gets bigger. And I really like the idea of it gets full man size and the body like just shoots, and he's like the genie's sitting in the middle dish bin, just like full body like hot tub style. And he's just like, hey, which I think coming up with a fun name for the genie would also be funny. Like a genie that has a beverage theme. I'm actually using some AI.
No worries. That's what it's for, man, is quick ideation. A genie with a beverage bent. I think
Fizz. Just
well,
fizz.
It's not soda. It's not soda. Because that's the thing.
Brew. Brew is also his name.
Brew is pretty good. Brew is
Brew. It's like, hey, I'm Brew.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. He's like,
yeah.
I think we made this joke in the last Genie episode, which was like 50 episodes ago. But just like, my name is so complicated. It's not, you can't like, humans can't pronounce it, but you can call me Brew.
You can call me Brew. I like that. I think that's funny. Yeah, we'll make that joke in every Genie story we ever tell. My name is too complicated from your mortals.
It's so easy, yeah.
It makes me think of the Monty Python Holy Grail. He's like, you can call me Tim.
Yeah.
Have you know that scene?
Oh yeah. I think that's good. And then he's freaking out. And he's like, what are you talking about? And maybe his kind of stuck up general manager guy walks in and like catches him with Brew, like talking to him. And all he sees from his perspective is just him talking to the cup.
Oh, that's neat. That's a cool rule. Whereas, like, so whoever is the owner of the Genie sees like them as a full person, but everyone else just sees a cup.
Yeah,
I like that a lot.
The lady was talking to herself because she was just talking to Brew.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. I thought she was just talking to him in his little form, but I like the idea that it makes people seem crazy.
Yeah.
I like the idea that he hops out of the thing and he's just I picture poofy pants, like vest, pointy shoes, just he has a big cup for a head. And he's just like, hey, nice place you got here. And like he turned and he keeps like looking up and he's like spilling, like making a huge mess, like just dirtying everything in the kitchen with his head. And he's like, what do you do? Stop. And he's like breaking stuff and then he's just like, oh, calm down, man. Like after he snaps and he like cleans it all back up really quick.
That's cool. Yeah.
I think that's neat. I like him kind of being boisterous. I think that's how you kind of need, if you're going to you do either evil Genie or you do like larger than life fun Genie.
Yeah. Just like Aladdin.
And I think he's larger than life fun Genie. He's like, are you like a real Genie? He's like, yeah. Like he kind of like unsure of it. Yeah. He was like, yeah, I'm a real Genie. He's like,
yeah, of course.
And I'm here to grant you 3 wishes and keep you company and hang out if you want. And he's like, I think there has to be like he initially just immediately jumps to. He's like, oh, I've thought about this. I wish that I had $1 million. He's like, no, can't do that one. Can't do that one. Or there's a joke of like, oh, there's a few rules you need to know. He's like, no, don't worry. I know. I watched Aladdin. I can't raise people from the dead. Yeah. I can't make people fall in love. He's like, yeah, I have some extra rules that you have to obey too.
I'm kind of on probation.
Yeah.
He can only, for like thousands of years, he can only.
He's like, I didn't always have a cup for a head. He's like, this is like he's like, I got in trouble with the Genie cops. That's really funny. And he's like, so I went a little too big with some wishes. So all my wishes have to be drink related. He's like, what? He's like, yeah, it has to do with like beverages or liquids of some sort. But yeah, pretty much the world's your oyster as long as you stay within that realm.
I like that. Either it's like Genie cops, like he's on probation and there's like a Genie judge. I think that would be a cool scene to get pulled up into a courtroom and Richie has to like testify. Yeah. He has to be a witness in Brew's trial at some point. Maybe to free him from this level of curse or whatever.
Yeah.
Or again, maybe some real left turns coming up, where it goes where you don't think it should. I think it would be funny to introduce the idea that Brew actually, maybe 1,000 years ago, got cursed by a wizard or a warlock or something like that. Like he made a bad wish. Like he was a tricky Genie, and the guy like really severely cursed him. And so you could bring that element back into it, which would be fun.
I like the line. He's like, I didn't know wizards could curse genies, but apparently they can.
Yeah.
So much for infinite cosmic power.
Yeah. It's like you'd have to like play really close to the chest on some of those rules that we know about genies and stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit of exposition dumping. But you could like, be kind of cool if he grabbed Richie by the head and he's like, look, and he like has him look into the liquid and he can see the past. He can show him,
Oh, that's cool.
like how it happened and stuff. And he's just like Richie, I don't know, like Richie just passes out, I think, at some point, from like overload basically. And he like wakes up in the morning to the general manager showing up and like kicking him, and he's just holding the cup. I think that would be like, oh man, that wasn't even real.
I like that. I like there's like infinite bits that you could do with his cup head, because I do like the idea at some point he needs to wake Richie up for something, and he just pour like the liquid becomes whatever he needs it to. So it's like ice water, and he like dumps it on Richie's head to like wake him up. I also like the idea where he's like, you just need to calm down and some tea. Yeah, make some, or have a drink or something like that. And then he grabs Richie's head and he's like, no. He's like, just like nursing Richie with his head.
I like that he just magically has like, you know, a big tea bag that he makes into himself, and he's just like, it starts steaming, and he's like, just come here.
It's too hot. So anyway, I think that makes sense. He passes out. Like maybe there's just like so much hubbub. He wakes up. The general manager is super mad at him. He's like, you didn't even finish the dishes last night. And there's like mess on the floor. Maybe the genie doesn't clean it up immediately. And then, are you saying the general manager's waving this cup? And he's like, what is this? Like, what are you?
No, I think Richie's holding it. Like he's like, kind of splayed out on the floor, and he kind of turns and he's like, oh, and he sees that he's holding the cup.
Oh yeah. And the manager's like, are you drinking? Are you drinking booze from your like little cup over here or something? And then he has the cup, and then I think he'd be unsure, because if he's holding the cup, like he's not going to rub the lamp right now, but he's going to think like, okay, well, and then I think maybe he does his shift or something, or he puts that in his backpack.
Or the general manager sends him home. He's like, it's not even your day here. Like, why are you here?
Yeah, I think he needs to go home. He goes home to his apartment or something. Maybe he has roommates, or a roommate that doesn't really pay much attention, or she's just like some dude or alcoholic or something.
Now, the owner of the coffee shop, I think, could come into play, because if you think about Richie becoming a bigger deal within the beverage world, the owner would have to be whatever. So it actually would be kind of funny if we double back on something that we did in terms of setting, that it isn't like a mom and pop kind of coffee shop. It's literally like a Starbucks.
Yeah,
because then it's owned by like a giant corporation that Richie can fight. And
it's Space Deer. Space Deer is the
Space Deer at Starbucks. Yeah, I Starboard.
Starboard. But it's just some big commercial shop. I think we need to, like, there's all these fun and games that we can have with him getting to know the genie and him learning the rules. And I think there's even a scene where he's like, well, can you give me like example, like what what other people wished for? Like, what did other people wish for? Cool. And that's a fun scene. He's like, well, if an alcoholic found me, like, game over, they didn't make it past wish one. Like they just like wished for an endless bottle of booze, and then they drank themselves to death. But then there's other, like, I think there's like some fun things to pepper in. Like, what did the last lady wish for? She never used her third wish. She just liked my company. I
also like the idea that we kind of break this genie trend of like, oh, I want to be set free. I know that's like a really classic genie thing, but he's like, this is what I live to do. Yeah. So like, I don't mind, because he could say that, like, she didn't set you free, and he's like, free, like I'm freest doing what I love, which again I'm starting to develop a little bit of a theme here.
Yep.
Especially with Richie being like low on the totem pole at a Starboard, really boring, basic corporate kind of thing, but he's like trying to get into school or something like that, and yet there's this opportunity, very weird one, that he could be something in the job that he chose, like his day job, which is kind of funny. Like, if, imagine you are working at a Starbucks and it's like, oh, you suddenly were given the opportunity to own Starbucks. Yeah. It's like, well, would I do it? Like, maybe. It would be such a hard thing. And sometimes there's that lesson of like, that's what life is sometimes, of like, you have to take the opportunities that come your way, kind of no matter what they are. Or like, hey, you're on a dead end job, but it presents some new opportunity. Oh, well, I might stick around now. It just makes those decisions a lot harder. And I feel like that's pretty relatable.
I think that's cool. I think we need to explore that first wish, because I think it's something like he could loophole it. Like he could either wish, here's a few ways I'm thinking about it. He could wish for knowledge on how to do something beverage related, whether that's like, I wish I could make the best cup of coffee in the world or something. Or like,
yeah. I like that. Just to quickly interject, he does that. It's like a small wish, right?
Yeah.
Small exploratory wish, but I like that comes back into play. It's a setup that he makes like the best cup of coffee for somebody that comes in that we set up earlier that he like really likes or wants to impress or whatever, or like a hard to please customer, like a customer who's always like, man, you guys always mess it up, but he always comes in.
Yeah.
But he's like, can I just like wish that I make this guy like the perfect cup of coffee? And he does it. And then that guy is like a big deal. It comes back in later and maybe helps him somehow.
Yeah, I actually like that. Like, it's really simple. I wasn't sure where the story would go with it, but if he just wished, he's like, maybe he even does it passively, but it's like he technically wished for it. He's like, that technically was your first wish. He's like, I was joking. Like, to wish that I can make the best cup of coffee that anyone's ever had. I think that'd be cool if he became locally famous a little bit. Like and then he, like, no one else can do it, you know? Like, people come in, they're like, oh my gosh, I've literally never had something like this. And they keep coming in. And like you said, there's the upside guy, and he's like, whoa, like people only want to be there if he's there. So like, one, he like raises in status that even a little bit to like the general manager, and maybe even the owner is like, maybe you should be the general manager, and like hires him. So it's like, even within his little domain here, that has helped him.
That's cool. I like that a lot, where the GM who's worked there for years, you know, has an art degree, and is just like hardened by that. I like the idea that the owner comes in, like owner operator, not the owner of Starbird entirely, comes in. He's like, oh, hey, and there's this huge crowd. He's like, what's going on here? And at the end of the day, he's like, I need you GM to go serve coffee at this point. And he's going to be the GM now. So he like bumps that guy back down a rung. And that's kind of where we see a story emerging at this point, where I think that Richie's eventually going to wish to have the GM like get the wish at the end. Like, it's really about their relationship.
Okay.
You know, or something to that effect. I just think it's so adversarial to begin with. And then for it to come back into play, like you get an opportunity that someone else really, really wants.
Yeah. I think it's also interesting. I feel like if he's the one who makes the best cup of coffee, this makes sense in any type of corporate environment. Promoting them to the position and making someone else make the coffee is like a bad move, because it's like clearly the guy who's good at the job.
That's true.
Like,
that's true.
You just run the register now. Because I was picturing this trajectory of, he uses this genie to like climb and like eventually meet the president of Starbird and do this thing, like, which we could go that route, but we could also keep it smaller, more contained. Because I think there's also this catching that's natural in a genie story, where things catch up with you, because he can't, people they're like, this is the best, but they want him to replicate it, like, for others. Like, it's not they want him to teach people, and he can't teach people how to make it. And maybe he has to use a second wish on like, well, I wish all the baristas at Starbird could make the coffee just as good as me, or something like that. But then it's interesting, because if that was his wish, I'm kind of going down a multiverse plot point here.
Yeah.
If that was his wish, it makes him less special again, which kind of like might deflate him back to where he was, because everyone can do what he can do at this point. So I don't know. That's an idea. I definitely like the cup of coffee being the first wish, because I think that elevates. And like I said, like, he serves it to his crush, and she's like, wow, this is exactly how I like it. Like, he's like literally like just like behind the counter poured black coffee, but it turned into like the hazelnut latte that she likes, and she's like, this is exactly how I like it, and with almond milk.
That's
and
what he should
the
call
right
her,
amount of flavor.
Hazelnut latte. He doesn't even know her name. Oh, hazelnut latte.
And Brew is like, who's that? He's like, That's a hazelnut latte. Don't worry. He's like, dude, she's cute. You should talk to her. Like, I like him being like a very encouraging bro, like friend to him.
Yeah, I agree. He's like, and he'll say her whole order. Like he gets kind of enraptured explaining it to Brew, but he's like, that's hazelnut latte with 2 pumps of vanilla and blah, blah, blah. And like, I just think,
she gets the morning glory muffin.
Yeah, the first muffin, just totally hot out of the oven.
Yep. I like that. Okay, so I think we've got a few threads we can explore. I like him becoming locally kind of famous and people wanting more from him. And then, yeah, there's the relationship with him and the general manager. Let's give the general manager a name. I feel like he needs a name.
Let's go with Brian.
Brian, the general manager.
Mm-hmm. Hazelnut.
And then cool. So
I have an idea.
Oh, yeah, go for it. No, you go.
So idea wise, I think Brian tells him, Brew used to be my genie.
Okay.
And I think that takes us down an interesting route. And so I want that whole first interaction where he like finds him with Brew in the morning and he's just like, oh man, like he knows what's going to happen. And maybe he changes the whole perspective on Brew.
And like Brew's not a helpful guy. He's actually, I think that's also just the MO for genies. Like they're not as helpful as you think they are going to be.
Yeah. Yes. And he claims to be a beverage genie, but the only beverage here is you.
That's pretty good. I'm going to write that down as a tentative one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what exactly that means. But
I know, but it is funny. It's a line that you feel like you know what it means, but if you dissect it, you're like, that's what Richie is like. What does that mean? He's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're like, just the beverage.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny because like it's Brian like trying to be profound in some way, and so there's a little bit of character built in there where it's like he's thought about it so much. He's like, I've spent years with Brew, and I came to realize that the only beverage here is you. Like when you're dealing with him, you're his beverage. And I'm kind of reworking the line a little bit, but that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I like the idea still that Brew is not necessarily a bad, nefarious guy. It's just Brian feels slighted from Brew. He feels like he didn't get what he wanted. So I think let's I feel like I like this story a lot. I think it's very fun and interesting. Yeah, but I feel like I'm getting stuck in the middle. I'm not sure how to get over the midpoint hump.
Richie needs goals. And I know we kind of said like giving that opportunity. Let's give him an attachment in some way. And we do this a lot, but like a sick mom or somebody to take care of this idea that like, okay, I have to kind of forego my wants and pursue this thing. So it's like, oh, I'll take this beverage route that has opened up because it means I can provide, at least I can do like a bare provision for my family. That we kind of talked about a roommate thing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just really like his younger brother or something that he takes care of. His parents are dead and he's like, oh, at least I can take care of him. I mean, truly, this might sound like somewhat hard to swallow. No pun intended. Oh boy. But he has like a special needs brother. And so we just play with that. Like his brother has Down syndrome and he's been that's why he had to give up his dream of whatever it is that he wants to then work hours at Starbird. And it's like, that's the place that he could do it and make money and keep his brother in a facility or something. Facility makes it sound really bad, but a day school kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like, the sure way to take a fun idea and make it heavy and have heavy stakes. I don't dislike the idea. It just changes the tone when you add that level of stakes to it.
That's fair. I guess I didn't want dead parent, so I was just trying to push it into some other type thing.
Yeah. We could do that. It definitely gives him more urgency than just like, and it changes the whole nature of the game of, so here's the one hesitancy is that a genie story kind of naturally feeds off of someone's pride and selfishness. A little bit, like it doesn't have to, and that's kind of the stories they get what they think they want, and then it doesn't really work. Yes. If he's already acting in a selfless manner, like, is he changing a lot by?
That is a really good counter argument to having him have a dependent. But the idea is really that he wants to offload that person. So let's make him like a young kid. Everybody thinks that's like his kid. It's like, no, this is my brother. And the whole idea is that both of his parents are dead. And I think Richie's probably at like 20s. And his brother's like, 10, maybe 15 at the oldest. And so that's kind of an interesting dynamic. But he's like, he wants to get away from this responsibility.
I think then, you've got more of a Lilo and Stitch, what's
that's a good
Nami, is that her name? I can't remember Lilo's sister's
I can't remember.
name.
It's been a really long time since I've watched Lilo and Stitch, but that is a good way to.
I feel like that because then we're leaning into his selfishness a little bit more, because if he was good-hearted, he would just use the wish to like do good-hearted things from the start, which is like fine. I think we could find a story in there, but if there's something that he's like I think that's where we're going. Like he's on the trajectory to be like Brian, the general manager, to be bitter life. In real life and be like bitter and jaded and like personality wise. If he keeps pursuing that, like if everything's a burden to him, then like that's where he's going to end up. And I think the story needs to be him realizing that things are like not necessarily a burden, like they are maybe a blessing in disguise.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Agreed. I think that he already had what he needed. And there was something really special about just taking care of his brother. And he didn't like to try and get your way out of it. Actually caused more problems. While I was saying that, I was thinking it'd be cool if they somehow ended up in a dimension where it was nothing but cups, like in a giant room, and they have to find Brew to get out.
That's kind of cool.
Or like between the genie police, like the genie judge, he has to brew a cup of coffee without Brew's help.
Yeah. I feel like it gets real wacky. This is very like A24 where it becomes more about genie court at the end. I like that.
You've been summoned to genie court. He's what? And these genies show up. I guess are they all beverage genies? Or no, we've kind of decided that like that's a low rung.
No, they're normal genies. They have normal heads. And maybe
alternative ending could be, just to work our way backward, could be that he gives Brew to Brian. Like he kind of purposely sets it up to where Brian grabs him and then cleans him, and it like sets up, or we just have that happen. Where we don't reveal that he's had him before. Like he hasn't. And so we know that he eventually will end up where he needs to be. And Brew can even say that he's like, I've never been with a master that cared about beverages. How do you think that makes me feel?
Oh, that's funny. I think the idea of there being some line, because my thought of giving a genie to a jaded, selfish person is like a recipe for disaster. That's not a loving thing to do, unless there's some line that Brew is like, he's like, hey, I've had so many masters, and the one thing I can guarantee, barring the people who just drank themselves into early grave on the first one, is that if they can make it through the three wishes, they come out the other side a better person.
Yeah.
That's his goal. So it's like he's like, I'm like a car wash, but in a cup.
Yeah. Let me mix my metaphors here.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not very good at metaphors.
I think that's not to say that Brian isn't one dimensional is my point. Like, he gets an opportunity that would really be meaningful to him. And that's what Richie does at the end. It's like blows through his wishes. I also like that the final wish is actually just a simple cup of coffee. I know we're kind of flopping it around here and there, but it just depends on the setup to the payoff. So this idea that it's like, I just want to sit and enjoy, like, actually, this is a really, okay. I wish I could have a cup of coffee with my dad one more time.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I like that a lot. But it's like Genie Loop. He's like, that's the cool thing about being a drink genie is that normally you can't bring people back from the dead, but if you throw a cup of coffee in there, we can do it temporarily. It'd be cool.
Like screaming the whole time because he's been reanimated. I was in heaven. I was in heaven. Or he's like, I was in hell. Don't send me back. Maybe, his dad is like, I just a drop of cold water. That's all I want. I've been in hell this whole time.
He's like, no, I've got a cup of coffee for you here.
A hot drink, Richie. I've been in hell.
No, I think that's super funny, but I think for the closure, we don't do that. No. I like the idea that like the brew from his cup head like comes and like forms in the chair and materializes and he becomes the dad, like human. Cool. Yeah. And then I think the dad, I think this is like the closure. Like, so we had the first wish, he wished for a cup of, that he can make the coffee. It kind of elevates his status. We didn't really land on the second wish. I think it's something same, like in pursuit of great, better status. I'm going to make a better life for myself. I'm going to ship my brother off somewhere. And maybe he's even like disguising it as that. Like he's like, if I can build up and I can make money, then I could give him a better, like he doesn't have to stay with me. I could ship him off and he could go to a nice boarding school or something, like disguising it like he wants to get rid of this burden and he's almost thinking that he's also a burden, like he's messing up his brother. But then his brother's always trying to tag along. I like the brother being 10, like a bit younger.
Yeah, I agreed. But I like that he's actually a rebel. Like he catches his brother like skipping school.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. So his brother's obviously exercising his own frustrations with the situation.
Yep.
Yeah. I guess it would be his parents. The wish would be like to have a drink with my parents.
Yeah.
Not just my dad.
Yeah. I think it's just a nice little conversation. And like maybe he breaks down. Like Richie's been very tough the whole time, but he's like crying, and then he's like, I'm trying really hard, and the parents are like, we're not asking you to do that. Like, I don't know. It's like this closure of like they're kind of revealing like, hey, we're really proud of you. You're doing a great job. I was
just thinking that. And they're like, hey, we don't care if you're the CEO of Starbird or not.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the fact that you're taking care of your brother, you know, we wish that we would have left the situation a little bit better, you know. That seems like the kind of area where you would do like some good celebrity casting, where you'd have like a really high profile actor or actors
come in and for the parents,
like Brad Pitt and, you know, Angelina Jolie, which I don't think they're an item anymore, but like you force them to be a couple again.
It turns out their parents were Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
He's like,
and they're not dead. They're just divorced.
We find out Richie's last name is Pitt at the
end. Richie Pitt.
No, I like that. I like that closure moment. And then they're like, hey, your brother's in a tough age, but he loves you and he just wants to be like you. And they're just tying it all with a bow. They're like showing him the thing that he can't see himself, that these things are blessings, that he doesn't have to be some big name thing as long as he's like, it's kind of a movie about like seeing the joy in the little things in life. Like, if he can work and he can provide for his brother and have fun with his brother and have fun at work and like get to talk with Hazelnut Latte and like, it's very, the movie About Time where he's like there's a montage where he's redoing the day and he's just like bitter and tired through the first time he does the day. And then he does it again and he's just taking the time to be optimistic and have pleasant conversations. I think that's what it is. Like, he's like, oh, I've got everything I need. Like, life's pretty good. and he just didn't realize it.
I like that. I think it's a really sweet movie. At the end of the day, that it is about responsibility, and knowing that the hardest things they are worthwhile, even if people don't see them. And so I think it needs to resolve by the younger brother doing something non-magical, some gesture that's like, I really appreciate you. Maybe he gets arrested. I don't know. Like, I want to keep Richie pouring the best cup of coffee power, I think, throughout the film. So he gets that. He does it for hazelnut latte first. And then every time pretty much after that, he just has that power. So this idea that he can get anywhere because he can pour someone, like, so he's in the jail getting his brother out, and he's like, let me just pour you a cup of coffee, and it gives him like incredible influence over whoever it is. And they're like, wow.
Yeah. He basically has like a charm. Yeah. A charm person, or like Pokemon attract skill, where it's just like everyone's charmed to him because the coffee's so good. I like the idea that his little brother like has always been messing with coffee, like in the background, but because his older brother does. And then like maybe towards the end, his older brother's having a tough time. And when it's like the scene they reconcile, the little brother makes him a cup of coffee, and he's like, wow, this is like really good. Like, it's genuinely good without any powers. And he's like, hey, you're like actually really good at this. And I like the idea that the owner of one of the Starbirds, like, we have like a benevolent, like a nice guy, like, and not corporate stooge, but I like that he does get some small promotion. He's not the president of Starbird, but he's like, hey, we're actually opening up one down the street, and I feel like you could be a great like store owner. I feel like the way you've handled things here. And like, so there's like a little bump, like things get a little easier for him and his brother, but it's not like, oh, riches,
Yeah,
it's
that's
more
good.
just
either that or he opens his own mom and pop coffee shop. And he starts kind of a family business type thing. I do think.
Oh, I like that too.
That, what is it? And then maybe he hires Brian to like help run it.
I actually like that a lot. So we have all these kind of floating background characters. We have like some corporate-y Starbird guy, and I think maybe he's like, hey, you could come work over here with the big boys. And he's like, I think I appreciate it, but I feel like the dream now is to like go into business with my brother. And if we do that, maybe he is 15, so he's a little more like close to working age.
Actually work like a night shift or something.
And I think it'd be cool if the guy was like, hey, that's cool. And there's this illusion. He's like, hey, if you ever need an investor, I'd be thrilled. Yeah. And then maybe we cut to, so we've got this corporate dude who invests in the business. Richie and his brother own it and run it. And yeah, I like the idea of there's a little scene. He's like, hey man, Brian, who's like always been antagonistic mostly to him. He's like, why don't you come work for us? Like, we'll have a much chiller thing. He's like, oh, really? Like, it's like, yeah, man, I don't know.
I
think
the
that's
idea
cool.
that Brian is disenchanted that in the beginning because he keeps trying to add things to the menu or like futz with the menu in some way and, like go over the top with drinks. And, it's like costing them money, or maybe people don't like really respond to them necessarily. But he kind of says that to him. He's like, I'll let you pick the menu. And he's like, oh, he kind of perks up a little bit. Perks
like
up,
that.
No pun intended. But yeah.
I like that. I like there's this scene. It's a very Ratatouille end scene where they have their own coffee shop. Or maybe we don't get there, but I do like seeing it. I kind of like the idea of Brew. Like, the wishes are spent. Maybe the wishes are spent, but Brew's just like hangs out like in the back or something like that. Like, he's like the private mascot, and maybe all three of them can, like, he's like, they all rub them the cup and all three of them can see him. I don't know, but I think but he's just kind of there as a friend and a supporter at that point.
Yeah, I do think it all hinges on that relation or that conversation with the parents that he gets, that he realizes he really needs. And the parents tell him, like, sometimes you have to do things that you don't want to do, but they're for the better. And they actually have an impact in raising other people up. So that idea that, okay, his younger brother, which I don't think we've named, Dylan, whatever, he follows in his brother's footsteps, even though he thinks his brother his brother doesn't like this job, but he's still trying to be like his brother. So it's like people are going to want to be like you, even if you aren't doing what you want to do. So you better do it with a cheerful heart, basically.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a hokey line, but at the end, I mean, literally the coffee shop that they open could be called Cheerful Heart or something like that. I feel like that's the full circle of that.
I like that.
And again, a little
cup of cheer.
Might not be your cup of tea, but I think it lands that plane pretty nicely. And the idea again of doing something that you don't want to do is actually more meaningful when you have people that you see, when it's for other people. That's really what it comes down to. And so he eventually has to just like set aside all of these wishes, and desires. I mean, we can give Richie like an actual non-coffee related goal that eventually he has to just give up. I think that's probably the best like second act turn or like climax of the film, is that he has poured amazing cups of coffee and influenced his way into whatever industry that he actually cares about. And like, let's say he wants to be like an actor or something. But he ends up on set and all he's ever really doing is pouring cups of coffee for people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and then he just kind of realizes that's not what he wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of avenues you can go, and this all spurned from a little painting gag that I did. Yeah. So like, I feel like we come up with a lot of more story than I thought we would come up with. Yeah. But I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's cute. I think it's a fun little piece with like some fun heart to it. And I think we are, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're moving into our tail end of the episode, which we always do, the title of the film and a line from the film, which we've hit some pretty good lines around back and forth as we've been going, but also titles, I feel like it's pretty obvious. I think it's Brew.
Brew is actually really good. Yeah, I think Brew. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything we want to add to it, but I think Brew, it's the genie's name. It's the coffee shop. Everything's centered around brewing coffee.
Yeah.
Cool. Brew.
Brew. There could probably be some double meaning you could add to that. I mean, obviously the coffee itself, but it's his name, obviously.
Brew the bro.
But like, somebody's brewing, they're brewing something over, there's something about that. Like he doesn't know what he wants to do with his life. He's
you're thinking it over.
That there's maybe something in there. But yeah, I think we've got a pretty solid roster of lines to our moments to pull from in our Along the Line segment. I think my favorite though is like, you are the beverage, to what's his face is cautioning him, but it depends on if we went that route of realizing, and I guess that we kind of,
if he knew about Brew, which I don't know if we landed on. So that's the only, I do like that line a lot, but it could even exist outside of that. Like the beverage is you, man. Or that's just something that sounds like that's Brian would say, like he's ranting. He's like, you spend years in the industry. You serving this up to customers. And and you realize the beverage is you. Yeah. I like that.
For somewhere like Starboard, you are the beverage. And it, and I feel like he could land it by just being like, and I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty ice cold right now. Something to that effect. Like
it's just like the cheesiest thing. Like it'd be funny because I think Richie would play it like being aware how cheesy the things he's saying. Yeah. But this guy is like, this jaded guy is like, you're the beverage, feeling pretty ice cold, and then just like storms off, and just like, dude.
I really do like that though, because it's this idea that you're pouring yourself out for people, and that's the central theme. Like, you are a drink offering and you have poured yourself out. I think that is like the crux, and that ultimately like the sacrifice of that life is actually better than becoming the owner of Starbird or whatever his highest like midpoint moment is. I would say it's probably that, where he's like, I just don't want this, which is funny. I feel like that character is like screaming at us like, this is not what I want. But hey, Richie, have some stronger goals in life. Maybe, I don't know.
I like it. Well, guys, that was Brew. That is an example. If this is your first episode, we can take the idea of a genie with a cup head and make a whole story out of it. So if you have more ideas, we got ways to contact us in the show notes. You can comment on the YouTube videos. We'd love to hear from you. And we will come back with more stories in this year, and we're excited to tell them. So until the next time, y'all, we'll catch you later.
See ya.
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.